race car has only one driver, and from the outside, it may appear that the racer is driving it. But in reality, along with the drivers, there are a lot of passengers. The silent emotions of all the people who have empowered him or her to be on that very stage.
Hi, this is Saumil and welcome back to The Driving Force. Now, over the course of this series, we've spoken to you a lot about the mentality of the racing drivers, the hardships, the perseverance, and how they manage to succeed in the end. But what about those people that stick by them through the tough times like a rock? What about those people that show the drivers the unconditional support?
The highs and lows of these racers are also the highs and lows of these silent heroes who support them unconditionally.
Let's hear more from the famous father-son racing duo of Vicky and Karun Chandok.
I was very lucky to be born into a racing family. My grandfather used to race, my grandmother used to race ambassadors. My dad, of course, raced and rallied for many, many years. So, you know, if not for them, I wouldn't be in the sport. I grew up watching my dad race. I grew up watching him rally. I traveled around India going to rallies with him. And then as the years came on, the roles were reversed and he was watching me race and traveled. You know, I think he traveled pretty much to all of my races.
Well, I think we need to go back maybe one part of his career before that, 2005, 2006. Motor racing is expensive, let's not deny that. And we found it, results were not forthcoming the way were predicted because of lack of budgets to go with a decent budget into a, let's say, category of Formula 3, which needed far more money than we had. So we took a break and ran to Asia, and Karun did the V6, which was a big Renault championship, and won it. That strategy move, I think, was something that I had to take a call on. It was difficult. 2007, when he won the GP2 first race in Spa, and the Indian anthem got played, that boosted his morale completely.
It was the first time that the Indian national anthem had been played at a Formula 1 race. It was, 2 hours before the Grand Prix. There was 130,000 people in the stands, and I won the race there. And that was very special. It established me back in Europe and on the path to F1.
When we entered Formula 1, we had a firm contract in place with HRT. Started working towards it. The problem was in Formula 1, when you sign a contract, the team says that they will use the money that you bring in as sponsorship for development of the car. Suddenly we found, after race 5 or 6 or whatever, that the money was just being used to run the team rather than any development. He was probably the only driver in recent history that went without testing a single mile on the car, straight into qualifying. He missed all the practice sessions because the car was not ready, but drove straight into qualifying, did it, good enough job. It was fine. I mean, the performance wasn't a great thing to worry about because he had made it to Formula 1. Thereafter, we signed a contract. We had an opportunity to play a test driver role with a Formula 1 team.
I had a contract with Team Lotus, which was not fulfilled, and that effectively put me out of position and cut short my trajectory. I had other opportunities which I turned down to sign the Lotus contract, and unfortunately, they didn't fulfill what had been agreed.
So I think that was probably the lowest point of Karun's career when the Indian GP was happening. He was the first car out on track. He did the practice session. He did free practice 1, but didn't get to race.
You fall out of love with the sport for a while. You get disappointed, dejected, frustrated with the people involved in sport.
That was really his lowest point of his professional career. And with no fault of his, he had no option. And I think emotionally, when Lotus let him down, he wanted to run away from the sport. He really did. It was our job, literally, to stand together as a family and just talk about things. And he gets his emotional strength from his mother. And all the practicalities he discusses with me.
But then you dust yourself off and you get up and you go again. And then I went to sports cars and went to Le Mans and did Le Mans now 5 times. And
when we went into Formula One with our eyes open, it was with the complete backing of the family, whether it was his brother, whether it was his mother, whether it was me, the whole family. It had to, because it's quite a nomadic life.
We've been very lucky to have gone on this journey together. My mum and my brother, they've all been very supportive, and it's a big effort, from the family side to have gone on this journey.
He's taken him, away from driving, but he's very much back in a sport he loves.
I always enjoyed doing the TV work and the commentary work. I've been very lucky. I've worked with 5 major global Formula One broadcasters. Today I work with Sky Sports in the UK, who are the biggest broadcaster on the planet for motorsport. It's cool, these are channels that I grew up watching, and these are magazines that I grew up reading as a 5-6-year-old, and now to be a columnist or an analyst or a commentator for them is cool. I enjoy it.
Just like the Chandoks, the Patel family also has racing in their blood. It's time for us to hear more from Kamlesh Patel and his son Aditya, who holds the record for driving the fastest in the entire Indian subcontinent.
To begin with, we just had a little workshop behind my house, and I was always interested in cars and stuff like that. So I once bought a small baby cart for him when he was 3 years old and put him in the cart, and I thought I would teach him how to drive, but unfortunately for me, he started driving by himself, and that was the start of his journey.
He never told me what to do and just kind of let me learn it, especially when it comes to driving on the track. Even though he used to race, he never said that this is where you need to turn, this is where you need to, drive racing lines, etc. Never forced me to go to a racetrack. I kind of forced him to take me to a racetrack. It was always that direction. And I think that's what really made me love the sport, that I wasn't really forced into it. Just simply going to the go-kart track, having fun, then starting to take part in local events and national events, etc., and that continuous support from both my parents, my dad and my mom. Even my brother was racing, in fact, at that time, so I think they had a lot of pressure coming from there.
He got into these single-seater Formula Maruti cars. He drove a couple of races and said this is very boring compared to go-karts. So then we had to put him in a faster car. And then he progressed from there, won the national championship in single-seaters. He got a call from Audi one day. Actually, I got a call saying that we want your son to drive. So I said, sure, by all means. And then Audi India gave him a drive in Germany, and then he drove several races in Germany. He did the ADAC championships. He did the R8 LMS Cup in Asia, and then the Blancpain GT3 championship, which was the last championship that he did. But that whole journey is over about 11 years. It was like every parent's dream today is my son is a Formula One driver, but that's not going to happen. He was lucky to get a call from Volkswagen in Germany and asked him to come over and drive for 1 year, where he didn't have to pay anything. And that's how the whole thing sort of grew bigger and bigger. Whole journey is over about 11 years.
For sure, the future is bright, and I think there are some interesting things coming about, which I guess everybody will see in the next 3-4 years.
Motorsports and risk, well, they just go in hand. While the racer is taking a tough corner on track or going flat out, he knows how grave even one indiscretion can be. The Tharani family is well aware of this fact, as they have not one but two racers, brothers Karthik and Prashant Tharani Singh, living their lives in the fast lane.
I realized I wanted to become a racing driver probably after starting to race, because it's such a big dream for any Indian kid to have, and we had no previous family competing in motorsport.
I was not comfortable at all. I did not want them to get into racing at all because I was very scared.
We don't know anybody, or we didn't know anybody back then who was into motorsport. Suddenly we just said, hey, we're going to go race. And these guys are like, what the hell is wrong with you all? What is this? We don't know what this is. We don't know where you're going to end up. We have no idea. And there was this general perception, motorsport is dangerous.
It is a little scaring. I was actually, when these people, both his brother and him, when they said they wanted to get into racing, I was the first one to object it.
It wasn't easy, and it was more my brother who did all the fighting and starving and all that in the family to get a chance. I was kind of like the sneaky guy, just followed what he was doing.
Just like any other mother wishes, study, take up a job and settle down. Now that he has taken up racing, and now I realize that it's the passion and it's something that he wants to pursue. I'm not fully happy about it, but I'm still okay with it.
Everyone goes through quite a lot of sacrifice, with the family. So it was a lot of sacrifice for my parents to also support my brother and me together.
This is a rich man's sport. I think as a family, especially as a middle class family, we've had to do a lot of sacrifices in order to reach the place that we've reached.
So if it is a middle class family, you know what the struggles are like. So you have to get funds. So that was the main struggle we had, and we had to find sponsors.
As a family, we've literally saved up and put every single penny into this. I've had to take out loans to fund my racing because a sponsor pulled out at the last minute. And 2017, Karthik had to sit out because we ran out of money. And we only had money enough for me to go to Belgium to do my race. And 2018, I said, you know what, I'm sitting out. We don't have money, you go race. So this is what we're doing. This year I'm not driving because we just don't have the money. So I think it's a lot of mutual sacrifices, and yeah, I think both of us push each other.
Wherever we go, people will ask, what is your son is doing? Where he is working? How much he is earning? All that, and the relatives will ask that questions.
In fact, many of my colleagues still ask me, how did you allow them to race? So that's a question that comes up. How did you allow them to race? I said, I did not allow them, they are doing it. Not that they listen to me, they're just doing it, that's all.
One of my most intensely emotional race was 2011, I think, at the Indian Junior Touring Cars. So both of us have an esteem each, and we started the race. We had a brilliant start. We figured out what happened with the carb, so we had like a nice amount of power. We started 11th and 12th. By the time we reached the first corner in Coimbatore, I think we were about 4th and 5th. And I see 3 cars take off. And I remember, I still thought to myself, I'm like, oh look, poor guy, some guy is gone flying. And I go around, and I'm looking in my mirrors trying to figure out where is Karthik. Is he ahead? Is he behind? He's not ahead. I'm running 4th, and I can't see Karthik. So I'm thinking maybe he's caught up in the pile, he's somewhere behind. I come around, and obviously there's 3 cars rolled, and I'm crossing that spot, and I see Karthik's car in the distance on its roof. It's like this. I have no idea what's happened to him. I'm still driving, I'm crying in the car, I have no idea, but I'm still in fourth. That's the best position for me. I'm like, what do I do now? You know, do I stop, go find out what happened to my brother, or do I continue? I actually came around, I stopped in the track, and I got out, I ran, I hugged him, I'm like, what happened? And this guy's just sitting and chilling, hey, I'm okay. I'm like, dude, your car is lying there. The least you could have done is come and told me on the pit wall that you're fine. You're like, but I was having a drink.
Because I know that if you crash, and mostly the structures in the car are safe enough to handle it. You're not really scared while driving, to be very honest. I think for everyone around you, it's scary when you crash, but not so much as a racing driver. But that doesn't mean people go and do crazy stuff. You still drive the car under its limits because you know that's what the maximum the car can do.
Yeah, you feel proud that they are achieving something. But at the same time, the tensions are there.
Well, it's pretty natural for a racer to rely on his family for a firm support system. To know more about this, we went to Pune to speak to Pratik Sonawde and his family.
My parents gifted me a car when I just turned 18 because they saw the passion that I have for cars. My parents have always been extremely supportive. My sisters have been supportive too. My whole family has been like a beautiful cocoon where they just, support each other in doing whatever that is the thing that they're passionate about. And I think this whole environment is what actually ended up being so productive for me in order to start racing and start a career with it.
आम्ही त्याला कधीही कुठलाही प्रतिकार केला नाही किंवा कुठलंही त्याला असं सांगितलं नाही. तुला रेसिंगमध्ये इंटरेस्ट असेल तू रेसिंग कर, तुला ज्याच्यात हौस असेल ते कर.
त्याला एकच मी सांगितलेलंही असतं की कुठल्याही मनात कुठलाही विचार न ठेवता एकाग्रता ठेवणे आणि ती कार चालवणे. पण त्यावेळी ज्यावेळी मला धगधग होते त्यावेळी ते सांगू शकत नाही आता काय वाटतंय, पण त्याची जोपर्यंत रेस चालते तोपर्यंत मी परमेश्वराला प्रार्थना करत असते की याची रेस व्यवस्थित हो.
ही फील्ड अत्यंत डेंजर आहे असं म्हणू शकतो, कारण त्याच्याकडे बघताना कारण ॲग्रेसिव्ह आहे, स्पीड आहे, तर तिथं काहीही घडू शकतं. ही भीती आम्हाला होती. आयुष्यात रिस्क सगळीकडेच आहे. ह्या स्पोर्टमध्ये जरी किती रिस्क असला तरीसुद्धा एक म्हणजे आमचा सगळ्यांचा त्याच्यावर असलेला विश्वास आणि त्याचा स्वतःवर असलेला विश्वास, या दोन गोष्टी खूप महत्त्वाच्या आहेत.
Luckily, my father has always ensured that there's never a loose end in terms of being financially prepared for something that you really want to do in life or something related to your career. Now that is something that I've learned from my father, that it is always preferred to be not one but two steps ahead when it comes to your financial planning. And with his immense support, I was able to fund my racing. However, after the first year of racing, right from the second year itself, I was able to earn money. So definitely my father's help was immense.
मी एकच निश्चय केला होता की त्याला जे आवडतं ते त्याने करावं, फक्त त्याच्यामध्ये सुरक्षितता असणे गरजेचं आहे. म्हणून आम्ही त्याला नेहमी एनकरेज करायचो की जास्तीत जास्त काळजी घेणे आणि आपल्याकडून कुठली मिस्टेक होणार नाही याची दक्षता घेणे, असे सल्ले आम्ही त्याला वारंवार देत होतो. मनामध्ये भीती खूप होती आमच्या, परंतु त्याला दाखवणं शक्य नव्हतं आम्हाला.
I could say the only form of sacrifice made was losing their comfort zone for that little bit of amount of time when I'm racing.
ॲज अ फॅमिली आणि आमचा घरातला माझा सगळ्यात लहान भाऊ म्हणून त्याच्याबद्दल आम्ही प्रचंड ऑब्सेस्ड आणि पॉझिटिव्ह आहोत, केअरिंग आहोत की त्याला काही होऊ नये. पण त्याची ही जी आवड आहे, त्याची जी पॅशन आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये त्याला आम्ही सपोर्ट करणं हे मला गरजेचं वाटतं. कारण जर आम्ही सपोर्ट केला तरच तो ते अचीव करू शकेल.
I would completely agree that I was not able to live the youngster's life that I wanted to live because I had to manage my finances in order to race, and then I was getting help from my father as well. So obviously to make one end meet, I had to compromise on something else. So yeah, I was not able to socialize much because I was constantly in that whole introspection of how do I make this happen? How do I make my opportunity come to me? And how do I make it all work together so that I can race and I can prove myself?
रेसच्या बाबतीत मला तर वाटतंच त्याने अचीव करायलाच पाहिजे कुठल्याही परिस्थितीत. कारण इंडियामध्ये फार कमी मुलं रेसमध्ये भाग घेतात आणि रेसिंगला जवळजवळ कमीच आहे मुलांचं आणि आईवडीलही कमी प्रोत्साहन देतात मुलांना.
I imagine myself sitting on a beach on a vacation, sipping on a nice cold drink and just relaxing, and then I suddenly realize that my heartbeat is nice and calm, I'm breathing nice and calmly, and I'm just enjoying the moment completely in peace, and that's where I'm at bliss. And I think the moment you're able to inculcate the exact same emotion when you're in a race car and while you're racing, and that level of composure and that level of calmness, I think that is what has turned you into a champion. Then numbers don't matter, the wins don't matter, it's just you and the whole emotion of being able to race and being in that moment. I think that is priceless. So the day I reach that, I think I've become a champion, and I do look forward to becoming that.
Well, with these incredible stories of these behind-the-scenes silent heroes, our journey in this episode has come to an end. But hang on there is a championship at stake. Before we leave, let's have a quick look at what's happening in the business end of the Volkswagen Championship.
It was round 4, the final one of the Volkswagen Championship, again being held at Chennai. A 3-day race weekend and a 4-way fight between Saurav, Siddharth, Prateek and Jeet to claim the championship. However, this was not the only attraction of this final race weekend. There were 3 drivers joining in from South Africa: Tasman Pepper, Jeffrey Kruger and Johan Pretorius, as a part of the driver exchange program between Volkswagen Motorsport India and Volkswagen Motorsport South Africa. We will talk more about it in the next episode, but for the time being, let's focus on qualifying. Championship leader Saurabh Bandyopadhyay took pole position by 34 hundredths of a second. Tasman Pepper from South Africa, who is the only female driver among all the entries, came second, and Jeffrey Kruger finished third quickest. Saurav's competitors Prateek, Jeet and Siddharth were starting from 4th, 5th and 7th respectively.
As the lights went out, Saurabh had a good start. As he held on to his lead position, but Jeffrey in car number 22 had an even better start as he overtook his compatriot Tasman in the very first corner to take the second place.
The top 3 started coming into their own, and it was pretty clear that unless something extraordinary happens, the winner will be decided from the pack of these 3. Especially Jeffrey and Saurav were really battling it out for the top position lap after lap.
After the top 3, there was a battle going on for the 4th position between Jeet and Prateek, out of which Jeet came on the top in the latter half of the race.
After sustaining immense pressure from Jeffrey, Saurav had a little off moment on the track, and that was enough for the experienced South African to take the lead of the race. After that moment, Saurav wasn't looking as racy as he was in the first half. And that allowed even Tasman to overtake him for second position on the very last lap of the race.
Jeffrey took the checkered flag in style and was followed by Tasman and Saurav in second and third positions.
Jeffrey also registered the fastest lap of the race. One of the championship contenders, Siddharth, was having a shocker as he finished 16th in the race, and that had a heavy dent on his title hopes. Junior championship leader Ayman Siddharth too was finding it difficult to grind it out through the field, and eventually he finished 14th behind his rivals Kaushik Mohan Raja and Virat Jairaj Jhala. In the championship standings, Saurav still led the way with 357 points, with Prateek in second on 334 and Jeet in third on 328. Due to a bad outing, Siddharth had fallen to 4th place with 311 points. Despite not having a strong outing, Ayman Siddharth still led the junior championship with 430 points, which has left Virat Jairaj Jhala and Kaushik Mohan Raja a whole lot to do with just 2 more races to go.
Well, this was just one of the 3 races in the last round of the Volkswagen Championship. It is still neck and neck between quite a few competitors, but who will back the championship? Let us wait and watch in the final chapter of the Driving Force.